Mm. Hey guys, so I am recording this after I've done initial recordings for this podcast, but I'm doing this now because I wanted to make a speed paint video for the 100 subscriber mark, but nobody participated. So please go watch the video that should be appearing up in the corner right about now. Click on it at the end of this video as well, because I really want to get that in for the 150 subscriber mark now. I had to push this forward because I wanted something for this milestone video. So please, go watch that video, go participate, and please, send me whatever villain you want my character of Bat Knight to fight against. That is all that I am asking for you guys. So, with all that out of the way, now enjoy the first episode of my new podcast, which I'll be doing every once in a while, called All in the Mind. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 1 of All in the Mind, the show where I basically take a look at myself and talk with the characters who are living inside of my head. So, today, because it's the first episode, there's not really going to be much, but I do have a very special guest for you guys, and this is one that I am very excited for you guys to meet. I actually haven't even met this guy yet, but he and I have been chatting through email, and he seems like a really good guy. His name is very interesting, very exotic sounding, and I'm very excited for you guys to meet him. I actually have him waiting on a group call right now, so let me just actually bring that up, and I'll let you guys say hello to Mr. Joe Care. Wait a minute. Joe Care. Joe Care. Joe Care? Oh no, it's not! Ah! Hi, Joker.
Well, hello, Anthony. Or should I call you Power Ranger Nerd?
How are you?
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm actually doing very well today, coming to you from my cell here in Arkham Asylum.
Ah, I see. Well, uh, so in Arkham, huh? How are they allowing you to have this kind of access?
Well, the details aren't important, but let's start this party, shall we?
I see. Well, um, I guess since this is an interview show, um, how about we get started on that?
Well, absolutely. After all, that's why we're here, so that the viewers can get to know me on a more personal level. So then, Power Ranger Nerd, what's behind door number 1?
um, so, one of the first questions that I have is, you obviously have a relationship with, uh, Batman.
Never say his name in my presence. I will kill you! I will kill you where you stand! I will kill you till you're dead!
Okay, I see that is a sensitive subject for you.
Ugh, I apologize. I'm doing my best to cooperate. However, I do not want to hear his name mentioned by you again in this interview. If you do, I will kill you.
Well, then I guess in that case, how about we talk about some of the people who have brought you to life in terms of movies, TV shows, and video games? Uh, for example, many fans will say that the best version of you was played by Mark Hamill.
Oh, Mark, he is such a great guy. I can still remember the day we first met. It was such a wonderful time.
Really? You actually met him?
Why, of course I did. I meet all the actors who decide to bring my presence to the masses. It's such a fun way to make sure that they can capture some part of me. Mark actually did a very wonderful job. I see him as one of the best versions of my character.
Huh. Interesting.
Indeed it is. For those who don't know, Mark and I actually spent an entire weekend together right before his audition. That way he got to know who I was in particular. And so that was how he came up with the voice.
So, if I may ask, what about with some of the other people who have brought you to life? One person who comes to mind is Cesar Romero from the 60s.
You know, in all honesty, with him, we have a bit of a love hate relationship. I love Caesar. His portrayal was so nice for the time. However, the one thing I can't get over is the fact that he never shaved. I mean, do I really look like the kind of guy who would have a mustache on his face? I don't think so.
Okay. Um, Honestly, I kind of saw that as a bit of a fun little thing that brought a little more goofiness to the series because it kind of was pretty goofy.
Well, the first thing you need to remember is this was the 60s. Everybody was doing crazy things at that time. Heck, even I was doing the most craziest things. In fact, remember in some of the episodes where I just have random henchmen who have a name that ties into my plot? Randomly enough, I actually did that. Again, it was a different time.
I understand. I see him as a bit of a classic kind of character. I understand it's not like the best interpretation of you, but it's pretty fun for someone who just needs to shut their brain off for about half an hour.
Yeah, I can honestly agree that is kind of what I was back in the day. I literally had no idea what I was doing. The comics, the video games, the shows, the movies, nothing ever made any sense with me back then. But I learned how to adapt with the times and eventually became the household name that I am. And once again, it was thanks to such great actors that I met in person before their filming and got to know who they were, and so they got to know who I was too.
But really, you actually met them.
Absolutely, I did. Do you really think I would lie about something like that? I met all of them, and each of them took something that made their take on me special and unique.
That's interesting. Because one of the bigger questions that I have is what about with Jack Nicholson? I mean, he was the one who really brought out the insanity of the Joker and his just complete breakdown of a character's mind.
Oh, I love Jack Nicholson. Jackie and I spent an entire day together. Less than usual, but he managed to capture the insane mind that way. Also, in reality, I think he is crazy like me. Just look at his face. Tell me he's not trying to plan somebody's murder.
I mean, yeah, you got a good point there.
Indeed, but that's also why I think he was one of the best versions of me. You really don't know what he's thinking, and I love that. You think he's going to do something terrible, but he then turns out to do something even worse than what you had thought was possible. I always love that and appreciate an actor who can give that spontaneity.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. I do like that. And I would also ask, what about with Heath Ledger? I know that he's not really one that would be on a big conversation like this, I would say. But he is one of the people who really captured a lot about the Joker, in my opinion, definitely.
Ah, Heath Ledger. I do remember him. Well, also I remember wanting to kill him more than anything.
Really?
Yes! I always feel that way about him whenever I see The Dark Knight. Well, actually, I feel that way about every single person who portrays me, but that's because I feel like they're missing something that's essential to my character. So, it's not just Heath himself, but it's every single person that I have been played by that I feel like I need to kill them for some reason. Heath was just very good at portraying me as a pure agent of chaos.
Well, I would say that's probably not something that I would say on a topic for him. But hey, whatever floats your boat, man. So then, what about going into some like video games? Because I know that Troy Baker voiced has done your voice for like some of the Batman video games. The one that comes to mind was the Lego Batman 2 video game, along with I think it was Arkham Origins.
Well, first off, you actually mentioned his name again, but I'll let it slide for now. Troy Baker was very fun for me to spend time with. You know, he actually was someone who really captured my voice. I will admit, everybody has tried to capture my voice, but the closest ones to have come from it are the two best ones, in my opinion, Mark and Troy. But Troy came just a little bit closer.
Uh huh. Uh huh. Nice.
Well, I wouldn't exactly call it nice, but Yes, he did a very good job at impersonating me. He really got the voice down, and the scriptwriters really knew what they were going for in those games. I really do love Troy. I really do. But there are times when I feel like I need to, well, kill him for being such a good Joker.
I do also kind of want to talk about that because your voice kind of sounds like a mix between Mark Hamill and Troy Baker.
You're really surprised? But yes, my real voice sounds like a combo between Mark and Troy. And that's why I love them the most. They sound the most like me. Troy got the voice down, and Mark got the playfulness down.
Oh, really? That's actually very interesting.
When it comes to me, the bigger the better. And, for lack of a better term, the way to get inside the head of the Joker is to pick something of my personality and push it to the max.
Wow. So each one got a different.
Please don't interrupt me. I hate repeating myself, and the thing I hate most of all, more than anything, is people talking over me.
My apologies.
You should be sorry. The one thing that I want is to just let people know that I can be a nice guy. Only if you play by my rules. But yes, I spent time with each actor, and during that time they all picked out something from me and put it into their performance, mostly at the forefront. For Troy, you had the voice. For Mark, you had the playfulness and the great camaraderie with Kevin Conroy. And for Jack, you got the best part of all, the insanity that can come from the mind. And for Caesar, well, you got the playfulness, the goofiness, the things that don't add up whatsoever.
Wow. Each one got a different part of your personality. That's actually really interesting. So, what about with someone like Jared Leto? What did he get?
That doofus? I never met the guy. I never knew that he was going to play me. He just went his own way. Didn't even think about what he could get from me. Heck, I would have told him to not do the method acting. I would have told him that the best way to get into character is to just be the character. On screen, not off screen. Don't ever mention his name again either. If you do, I will kill you again.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I wouldn't have expected that kind of answer, but understood, Joker.
Once again, I don't not like his performance. He definitely seems the right kind of, how do you say, asshole that the Joker needs to be. However, he just took it too far when the cameras weren't rolling, and that is what despises him for me. I don't think that he's a great Joker, but I do appreciate the level of, let's say, method acting that he went for it. He did his best, but ultimately he sucked.
Okay, Joker. Um, but what about with some of the other performances that maybe not a lot of people know about? I do know that there was Richard Card, who voiced your character in the Injustice video game. What did you think about with that kind of performance?
Oh, I love that game! Superman going crazy. Oh, that was the best joke ever. I will say, while I love the way that I was portrayed in that game, the voice didn't exactly click. It was, shall we say, a little too much of a baritone voice, where I think I'm a bit more of an alto. A little too deep and gruff for my liking.
Yeah, I will admit the voice is a little too raspy, in my opinion, as well. But I do think that it was perfect for the game. But there is one more person that I do want to talk about with uh, your performances. I'll say.
Oh, really? And who might that be?
Well, actually, it's with the Batman: The Brave and the Bold. I do enjoy that show a lot, and I want to know what was your thoughts about it.
You told me you weren't going to say it again. You know what my threats were. I will threaten you one more time. This is your fourth strike. One more and you're out.
Once again, I'm sorry for mentioning his name, but that was a slip up on my part. Please don't hurt me. I legit was just saying it in the name of the title because that is the title of the show.
One more strike and you're out. But to answer your question, I love Jeff Bennett's version of me. In my opinion, it is the best version. One of the best versions, at least. Maybe not as good as Mark or Troy. I would say that they are up at the very top. But he's the most honest version of me. I cannot see anyone else as me than him. I'm not kidding here.
Really, the most honest version of you?
Oh, you say that, but think about it. Each version of me from different shows and movies and games has been something unique, to say the least. Jeff Bennett managed to take everything from different eras and combine it into one that was very special. Plus, it was the golden age of comics. That was when I was the most honest part of myself.
I can understand that. Every single thing that you've been in has been very different from each other, and so I can understand that.
Yes, each actor brought something different to the role. Jeff Bennett just managed to pull every single one of them and make something that was unique. Plus, this was also a show that was set for the Golden Age. So, being someone from the Golden Age of comics, naturally, it's my favorite version.
Nice. So another thing that I would like to ask about is a bit of an odd kind of topic, but I want to ask you about your relationship with the Gotham Police Force, if I may.
Well, what would you like to know about them? I can tell you just about all the darkest secrets.
Well, kind of what you think about them in the different forms of media. Because there are times when they are very competent, other times they just don't do anything, and other times when they are somewhere in the middle. But what about with your relationship with some of them? Let's go with that.
Well, my relationship varies depending on which officer we're talking about in particular. Would you want to know about Detective Ramirez or Captain Garshaw? I don't even think that's his real name, but you get the idea. There are dozens of different police officers that patrol Gotham. Why don't we start then with Commissioner Gordon? Jim is such a wonderful human being. He is almost the embodiment of purity, the one who does everything by the book, except for dealing with a vigilante.
I would say Commissioner Gordon is a lot of different kinds of things, but I think he's probably the most competent out of all the police officers, at least when it comes to the other guy.
Yes, talk about having bats in your belfry. I think he's got a few bats roaming around in his little skull, if you know what I'm saying. Heck, he could be as insane as me half the time, letting a vigilante who wears a mask run around doing his job.
But what about Detective Bullock?
Oh, Harvey Bullock. Oh, my favorite in the entire department. He is hilarious.
Really? You find him hilarious?
Of course I do. He does everything strictly by the book. He doesn't even want the vigilante. He will literally murder people just to get at Ratman.
Huh. Never would have pegged you for that.
Well, of course. Anything to get the Batman out of my life is a win for me.
Oh, okay. Um, but um, I then also wanted to ask you a quick question about with some of your I don't want to call them friendships because I don't think you've ever had any intention of being friends with any of them, but alliances. Like, what can you tell us about? What can you tell us that we don't know about your relationship with Harley?
Harley? I don't recall ever knowing a Harley or even being in a relationship with a Harley. You must have your wires crossed too.
Uh, Harley Quinn.
Hmm. The name sounds familiar, but I can't put a face to it.
Well, that's a little odd. I mean, she's been with you for a little over 30 years now.
Wait! Are you referring to that psychiatrist doctor that I manipulated into becoming my girlfriend and then using her for my own personal gain to try to get at Batman and have him break and become a villain like me?
Yes, her.
Oh, that Harley! For a moment I thought you meant Harley David, which I don't think I've ever met the guy. But Harley and I have had a bit of a rocky relationship, but I think she's coming around to me again. The weird thing is, though, things have never been the same since the bat forced us to separate. Or was it the plant? But either way, I say good riddance to her. She honestly held me back from my true goals.
Oh, okay. I guess that's something I wouldn't have guessed. Very intriguing, I'll say, the very least.
Yeah, In all honesty, there's not really much else to talk about with her. She always comes back. I dump her, she comes back. I hit her, she comes back. Rinse and repeat.
What about with some of the other villains that you've worked alongside? I do know in the '60s there was the movie that paired you up with Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman.
Indeed, there was. I remember that day very clearly. What would you like to know?
I would ask between those three, who's been your favorite to work with?
Well, the penguin.
Really? I don't think I would have ever guessed that.
Yes, as it turns out, we're very compatible, and we became best friends almost instantly. Even though his sophistication can sometimes drive me nuts, and my insanity can drive him nuts sometimes, we work so well together.
So, what's your favorite thing about him?
Well, personally, I like the fact that he has dozens and dozens of different types of umbrellas. Personally speaking, umbrellas have been one of my favorite things to booby trap, but he turns them into weapons, mostly using a gas. But hey, I like my own Joker gas, and every once in a while I've even filled it with that. Upon his permission, of course.
I see. Very intriguing.
Indeed. I do find him to be a nice companion on a dark day in prison.
Now, if I may ask, um, what about what about with some of the sidekicks that your arch rival has worked with? Like Nightwing, Batgirl, and Robin. What are some of your opinions about some of them?
Well, that's probably the thing that you'll get the most out of me. Nightwing, I loved him. I love him as Robin. And he was such a wonderful, pure boy. I always had a ball trying to screw around with him. The next Robin, who I'm pretty sure I killed, turned into the Red Hood. He actually turned out a lot better, in my opinion. I mean, really think about it. He dies yet comes back from the dead for revenge. How much more poetic can you get than that? The third Robin, I will admit, he has some nice qualities about him, but he reminds me too much of the Bat. And the most recent Robin, I hate that little asshole. He is so cruel. He feels like he should be my sidekick, I'll admit.
Okay, interesting account on that. Um, that is pretty insightful. I don't know if I personally would say that.
Well, just remember, this voice is coming from your mouth, and your script as well.
That is a good point, but I don't know if I myself would say that.
Well, just think about it. He is cruel to the family, he's cruel to his teams. It feels more like he is someone who is inspired after me rather than the Dork Knight.
Uh, is there anything else about yourself that maybe people don't always guess about?
Well, the biggest thing people don't know off the top of my head is despite me having the biggest smile in the entire world, I have the best poker face.
Really? You actually play cards as well?
Well, of course I do. In fact, tonight we actually have a poker night at Arkham, and I am so excited to win everyone's. Well, the only currency we have is just rocks, but I am so excited to win everyone's rocks.
I don't know if I would have ever guessed that. I would have just assumed that you use the playing cards just to mess with your enemies.
Wait, so you assume that I don't use my playing cards for games like poker?
Well, you sort of use them as, like, in the same vein as throwing knives. I would assume that you use them just for that and to just confuse people.
Says the guy who one of his favorite shows ever is a show where people literally carry around children trading cards and play with them. You don't see them using them as shurikens.
You have a fair point about that.
You're darn right I have a fair point about that. You assume way too much for someone like me.
I mean, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. I did see an episode of the 90s show where you played poker with Poison Ivy, Penguin, Killer Croc, Two Face. So, I'm not very surprised, but still a little confusing sometimes.
Well, you are part right. I actually do carry them around just to confuse the heck out of people who've never met me before. They would just assume that they're regular playing cards until I reveal that they are razor sharp in the most funny way possible, going right through their eyes.
So, I would also like to ask a quick question, just for your uh, opinion. What about with some of these other villains that have popped up in Gotham during your time there? Like, I know that there have been quite a few villains that the heroes of Gotham have had to fight against. One that comes to mind that I don't even think I understand completely is Egghead. What do you have to say about someone like him?
Oh, that loser? I don't even understand him half the time. He replaces random words with the word egg. Makes zero sense if you ask me. There is nothing about him that is funny.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think it was just a little more confusing that Vincent Price just played him in the 60s show.
Really? Vincent Price played him?
Yeah, actually, he did.
You know, he was such a good actor. And I really think he would have been a perfect Joker.
Really? You think he would have been a good Joker? Huh. Never would have known that.
Well, obviously, he has such the perfect laugh for a Joker. Have you not even seen Thriller or heard his laugh at the end of that song?
I have, and honestly, yeah, that does make sense.
Of course it does. It's always the actor you least expect it that can give the greatest performance for a character.
So, I think one last question, if I might. Um, what's one thing that you like about Gotham?
In all honesty, I love the city when it goes red with the flames of a burning building that I destroyed.
So, is there anything you can tell us about maybe your next big mastermind plan for the city?
Who do you think you are, a cop? Heck no, I'm not revealing anything about what my next plan is. You're not going to get me to spoil it for everybody.
I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I mean no disrespect for anything.
Well, the biggest thing is It's a trade secret. I have plans, but I want to keep them a surprise. Let the city wonder what I'm going to do next. I don't want to spoil things immediately.
Understood. I will say, though, I do find it pretty interesting that you actually have a bit of a back and forth relationship with the heroes of Gotham. I mean, there are times you could be one step ahead of them, and then the next minute, Batman is 3 steps ahead of you. Joker? Hello? Did we get cut off for something? Mm, mm, mm. It, it's Batman. Uh, hello? Hi, Batman. I've just been doing some recordings. I'm doing a podcast right now. I was just interviewing Joker, and what? He's not in Arkham? I should probably get out of the city then, shouldn't I? Well, okay. I will. I will try to get out of here as quick as I can. Let me just finish it. No time? I see. Well, please get here quickly. Hello? Hello? Joker? Please don't kill me. Um, well, I guess I should wrap this up as quick as I can. Um, so thanks you guys for checking out my first episode of All in the Mind. If I survive next week,
Next week? It'll take a month to put you back together.
okay. For next time, I will probably be looking into some of the other voices that live in my head.
Power Ranger Nerd!
What was that? Oh, please don't tell me he's here. Joker, if you're here, I am so sorry. Hey, who turned out the lights? I was saying that work during the day. Hey, what are you doing with that fork? No, no!
Hello, operator. I believe my party's been disconnected.